you'll find yourself in cycles where perpetual harm is being done to you. And you deserve more than that. Hello, my name is Dr. Florencia and I'm a licensed psychologist and a relationship coach. In today's video, I'll be discussing 8 life lessons that I've learned over the years, especially in my 20s. So before I go through my list, let me explain what I do. I help modern day women, high achieving women, especially women of color, to change their unfulfilling, unhealthy dating and relationship habits, and provide them with evidence-based tools to create relationships that they desire. So first off, being a people pleaser is a trauma response. Okay? There is no reason why you're trying to appease every single person in your life. You're setting yourself up for failure, because guess what? Sometimes it's never going to be good enough for whatever reason, okay? And secondly, by people pleasing, you are also most likely neglecting yourself and not attending to your own needs. So again, it is a trauma response, right? So when I think about my own experience of having an anxious attachment style, I am more inclined to want to people please, want to make sure that I keep everyone happy, because I value relationships to the point where, sometimes I put myself on the back burner, right? And I prioritize other people and I prioritize keeping them happy. And that is very common. Like, I see it in my clients all the time who are anxiously attached. And it's something you have to work on, because if you think about wanting to have a healthy relationship, you have to go into that relationship feeling full, feeling like you're complete, and that the relationship is a incredible add-on, right, to your life, rather than something that would complete your life or something that you are lacking or something that you are desperate for, right? And also, a lot of the time, I can speak from my own experience. And also, people pleasing often starts from childhood, right? So if you have been in an environment where either maybe one of your caregivers were quite punitive or they were disciplinarians, and it was never good enough, and you always had to do above or go above and beyond in order to keep them happy or keep them pleased or keep them around, or that they were quite inconsistent in terms of the affection they gave you, or how much they were acknowledging you and giving you attention, etc. That leads to the need to people please, right? As children, as teenagers, and going on into adulthood, and that then bleeds into your other relationships and friendships, right? So it is incredibly unhelpful to have that trait, even though you might think that it is helpful, right? Because it keeps people around you, but it keeps people who aren't necessarily being good to you and who aren't necessarily considerate of your own needs, right? So that then keeps you stuck in unbalanced and sometimes unhealthy relationships. So that is something that you would need to work through. And that ties into, you need to help yourself first. You need to prioritize your own needs, because if you don't prioritize your needs, no one else will do that for you. Okay, so you need to get in the habit of what I normally say to my clients is, in terms of relationships, you need to treat yourself in a way that you would expect others to treat you. So you have to envision what that looks like and act on that, practice that, so not speaking to yourself in a negative way, that inner critic that we all have. You need to tame that inner critic, because if you were to externalize it and envision someone else speaking you in that manner, most likely it would upset you, and most likely you wouldn't accept it. So why do we accept that ourselves? For us to speak that way to ourselves, it says something, right? And also, for instance, if you were to expect quality time from your potential partner or whoever you're dating, well, are you spending quality time with yourself? Are you taking adequate breaks? Are you allowing yourself to rest? Are you allowing yourself to take a nap if you need it? Are you allowing yourself to take pauses? Are you journaling? Are you having conversations with yourself? So again, all of these things are important because it pours into you, right? If you expect gifts, for instance, from your partner to show their appreciation, do you treat yourself when you have achieved something, or when you are proud of yourself, or when you are, or just because also, right? Because you don't necessarily need a reason to treat yourself, but do you do that on a regular basis? Like, do you, have or cook your favorite meal just because you can, or because you feel like, okay, do you know what? I fancy this, or I've had a good week, so let me do this for myself. Do you do that? Do you take that trip that you've always wanted to take? Do you go into, I don't know, Selfridges and treat yourself to something really nice? Or if you don't treat yourself to something nice, even just having nice and luxurious experiences, treating yourself to a spa, or like an overnight hotel stay, or even, if you are on a budget, do you take yourself out for a nice picnic, or like a walk along the beach, or do you go to the park to meditate or whatever? Like all of these things just signals to us that we are worth investing time, money, energy into ourselves. So if we don't do that for ourselves, how can you expect someone else to do that for us? That makes no sense. So you need to start with yourself first. Your parents are just humans trying to figure things out. Okay? This is something that I had to come to terms with as I went through my counselling, psychology training, and I came to understand just human psychology. I then came to the realization that there was a lot going on contextually for my parents that deterred them or hindered them from being able to be the best parents for me. And like I've previously mentioned in another video, my mom, I think she has, undiagnosed personality disorder. So so if she is walking around with a illness that is undiagnosed, right? So she doesn't have a full insight or understanding as to why she's behaving the way that she is, and having that full understanding so that she can take ownership of her behavior, that already puts her on the back foot, essentially. And essentially I'm then expecting something from her that perhaps she's not able to provide me. So I had to come to terms with that. And yeah, and as I've come to terms with that, I also then have to make a choice as to, is what she's able to provide me, is that going to be enough for me? And am I okay with stepping away from that, regardless of what my culture says, regardless of what my family, says, or people around me. So I had to make a choice for myself to, step away and be okay with that. Striving for perfection will set yourself up for failure. So today, perfect example, right? Like, I woke up incredibly tired, incredibly sluggish, and I was thinking to myself, oh my God, I need to film a bunch of videos, because I batch my videos, right? And I was thinking to myself, I can't, because I'm just not in the best spirit. I am not in the best state of mind to do this. I don't have the energy to do this. And it's probably not going to come out in a way that I would like it to come out. And then I had to pause and think to myself, well, what is important here? Is it important for the videos to come out crispy clean and perfect, and that I'm able to articulate myself in the exact way that I want to, and that my energy levels are on a 10? And is that important, or do people care about the message? Do people care about what it is that I have to say, sharing my knowledge, sharing my experience, and building that relationship with you all? Is that more important? I think so. So yes, I will take time for myself in the afternoon, because I'm filming in the morning. I will take time for myself in the afternoon and rest, because I'm PMSing right now, so I do need time to rest and attend to myself. But I also need to be okay with just putting in the work and doing it in a way that isn't forceful, because like perfection will just get in the way of, or striving for perfection will get in the way of just getting the work done, right? So yeah. And there is a quote that I came across not too long ago, which I absolutely loved. I've got it on my wall actually, so I'm just gonna read it out. Perfection is a delusion that can rob one of a very successful and enriching life if not careful. So there you go. But I also want to perhaps name, or maybe also highlight, how in a very, obviously in a capitalist society, being imperfect isn't encouraged, it isn't promoted, and isn't necessarily given space for, right? So I remember this day vividly, when I was in my first year of training, and prior to my training, like, I had never experienced failure. Like, in my when I did my master's, I really struggled with my master's. I don't know, for some reason, either the content didn't really click with me, or maybe just how the content was taught didn't really click with me. But I ended up just about pass. Well, no, I wouldn't say just about passing. I mean, it was, a decent pass, let's say. Which overall, if I consider, my other experiences of university or college before that, etc., like, I always did really well, if not exceptionally well. So, just passing, that in and of itself was a bit okay, but I was just glad to just pass because like I said, I really struggled. But when it came to my doctorate, I had such difficulty getting a pass. Like, I kept failing my assignments, of failure after failure. And if you don't pass your assignments, and regardless of whether your internship or placement went well, and your evaluations generally are good, if you fail your assignments, you're not gonna be able to pass the year and continue on to the second year. Like, you have to do the year all over again. So I remember when I got my results back, and I think that was my maybe third assignment that I did in the year, and I failed it, and I literally sobbed. I fell to the floor and sobbed because I didn't know what to do, and that sense of the sense of powerlessness, but also not being good enough, and that you literally have no control over what is going to come next, other than just trying to obviously redo the assignment and then resubmit and then hope for the best, but I felt so out of control and so powerless. And again, and I think that also was kind of tied back to my childhood experience of coming home. And I think some immigrant people in here, second generation immigrants who are watching this will relate. When I'm coming home with, let's say, like a B or B plus or whatever, maybe even an A, and I'll come home all excited and be like, yeah, this is good, like, I've done a good job, whatever. And I'll come home to my to my biological family, and I show my grade, and my dad would just be like, a B, so where's the rest? Like, what's going on? An A? Okay, why is it not A plus? You can do better next time. So it's constantly, and throughout my childhood, it was never good enough. It was never good enough unless it was an A star, A plus. So from young, my dad had instilled in me that you need to be perfect in order to be seen as worthy, in order to be seen as good enough. So letting go of perfection, for me, that is a process. I mean, I'm a lot better now because, again, I've put in so much work and so much therapy, and the doctor training really humbled me, because it's either all you need to do is try and pass, and if you can pass, that shows a lot about your determination, your academic knowledge, intellect, etc. So yeah, me constantly failing, it was just a kick in the gut over and over and over again. And then having to resort to asking for help as well, like asking for help. There was just such shame attached to that for me, that I just couldn't bring myself to ask people to help with my assignments or help me try and navigate through the course. So for the first, I would say, 2 years, up until like midway through the pandemic, I would say, I pretty much had a philosophy of like, I am just gonna have to just do this by myself, just get on with things and whatever, and just figure it out by myself. But then I figured that I can't do this by myself. Like, I need help. Like, I I'm struggling. And if I want to pass this course or pass this training, I need help. Like, I need additional brains to think about this work that I'm doing, you know? So yeah, so all of that to say, perfection can really kill. It can kill people's souls. And it is setting yourself up for failure if you apply that philosophy to your life, because sometimes it's never going to be good enough. And what then? What are you going to do then? So you need to find the sense of contentment with being good enough for you, you know? And it's okay to change your mind or to start over. Yeah, it's okay to change your mind and start over. This is a really, really interesting story, right? And it's a bit extreme, but bear with me. I had a client who was doing really well career-wise, and she was in a relationship, and she was due to be married a few months down the line, right? Now, when I started my sessions with her, we initially focused on her mental health, and she wasn't too worried about her relationship at that moment in time. But as we delved into her childhood experiences, delved into, you know, what she finds important in life and things, and essentially going through her self-discovery, right? She then turned up to the session one day and said, I know that we haven't spoken about this, but I have a feeling that my partner isn't a good match. And I said, oh, how come? She said, well, he did this thing, and that really, really upset me. And that made me think about all the other things that he does that really upsets me. And I just wonder what that is about. And I don't know what to do. So then the focus, the core focus of our sessions then became her relationship, right? And then over just a matter of weeks, as we delved into this and unpacked all the stuff that was happening, what she then became to realize that because of her, prior to this relationship, she had experienced very tumultuous, very violent, very unbalanced relationships, where she felt completely powerless and, you know, abused, violated, that she didn't necessarily see the red flags in her current relationship. So she overlooked some of the emotional abuse, some of the emotional manipulation that her current partner was displaying. But because it wasn't physical, like it isn't like he wasn't threatening her, he wasn't aggressive, they other than having those moments which were triggering for her, but other than those moments, it was fine. She didn't have any issues. So it didn't really come to mind for her to analyze that up until when we started to have sessions together. And that then led to her making the decision to not go forward with the wedding, to call it off, and to end the relationship. And that it was in a matter of 8 weeks. So, so I'm saying that as an example to say that just imagine if you are, anticipating or planning something as life-changing and significant as a wedding, a marriage, right, with someone. And she was able to say, actually, hang on, this is not it for me. I have changed my mind. I'm going in a different direction. that is incredibly powerful. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to go in a different direction if that is what you need to do, and if that serves you better than the relationship or relationship situation or circumstances that you're currently in. Most people do not want to see you do better than them. And I don't even have to go into a very long, drawn out story about this, but yeah, like projection is something that we have to analyze and understand constantly in our interactions with people. Like, people's worldview are mainly shaped by their own experiences and what they have soaked up around them, right? About the culture, expectations, norms, etc. That also influences how they sit with discomfort. So if it is making them uncomfortable to see you do better than them, they will be unlikely to sit with that discomfort that brings up with them and then project it onto you, because it is safer and easier to do that than to sit with this discomfort. So it's only human nature to try and survive the turmoil that we go through, right? Whether it's external or internal. And in order to manage that internal turmoil, we have to do something with that. So then we discard, so we then put it onto someone else. And lastly, be a good person for yourself because you want to be, and not because you think that is what you should do for others, or that you're expecting others to be good to you. You cannot control other people's behaviors. You can only control your own behavior. And when you find peace with that, you come to understand that a lot of the stuff that's happening around you, you don't necessarily have direct control over, but what you can control is your behavior, how you respond to your circumstances, your environment, to people, and take some accountability in terms of how you're choosing to deal with things, you know, how you're choosing to perceive things. And I do also, again, I don't really want to go into like a political kind of discussion per se, you know, systemic oppression, like racism, you know, survivors of trauma, etc. All of those things are incredibly important to put things into perspective. But there are also windows for us to seek opportunities to stand on our own 2 feet and take control back, or reclaim power back, even if it means that you don't necessarily have power over wider systems, etc. I think that is important to note, because if we go through life feeling as though that you don't have control over yourself and you don't have autonomy over yourself, you'll find yourself in cycles where perpetual harm is being done to you. And you deserve more than that, you know, especially if you are a person of color, you're a woman of color. You most likely would have gone through a lot and you've survived a lot, and you would be doing yourself a disservice to say that you're essentially giving up on yourself and that you're just allowing life to happen to you. Because guess what? There is so much more to life. There's so much to experience in life. There's so much happiness for you to claim if you choose to do so, one step at a time. So that's it, guys. That was a heavy video. I have a free workbook for you to download. It's in the description box, and it's a partner compatibility assessment. So essentially, if, for instance, you've ever wondered, should I text this guy back? What do I do? He hasn't texted me back yet. What does that mean? Where do I go from here? All of that. Don't even waste any more of your energy on that. What I want you to do instead is to download the workbook and assess whether the person's behavior is aligned with your values. And once you've done that, you will then know what to do after that. I will guide you through the exact steps in the workbook. So go have a look, complete it, and let me know what you think. Then with that being said, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.